Hi, everybody. Good morning and welcome to the OPDC Business Development Program, where we're talking about recruitment today. This is an interactive panel. So if you have questions about recruitment and you want to ask one of our experts questions as we go along, feel free to use the chat box to do this. We will be recording the session and it's started now. And this is part of, as I said, the OPDC's business development program. We're looking at how do we recruit the right person into your organization. So this is going to be, as I said, it's a panel of experts talking through this and giving you an opportunity to ask questions as we move through the presentation. I am just trying to share my screen with you so we can see. There we go. Right. Okay. So with our presentation today, it is a panel, so do feel free to drop questions into the chat if you've got particular topics you want to talk about. We are part of the OPDC and the Forge at Park Royal in delivering this business regeneration program for you, with Brandewin acting as the delivery partners in conjunction with the Forge. And we have representatives from the Forge and from Brandewin today who will be able to answer those questions. The agenda is to go through the session with a bit of an introduction. The panel will introduce themselves and talk about the Forge at Park Royal, and then there'll just be a general discussion with Q&A from participants with a wrap up from there. And as part of this, you'll be aware that there's the methodology we have for this is the workshops, the diagnostics, and the one-to-one sessions. So you do get those three hours of one-to-ones in here, so don't forget about those, and we will come back to those at the end of the presentation. So without further ado, I will stop sharing my screen and just talking about the current situation we find is that there is a need to recruit the right people, and it matters because it might seem obvious to people that we need the right people, but it's important because it helps us with our company growth and it helps us to expand and prosper. And getting that right up front makes it much easier as an employer to get people in that you can work with and can grow the company through and develop those skills for those people. And we're going to focus on soft skills, apprenticeships, school leavers who are in that job transition stage. So they could be school or university or higher education leavers, the opportunities to talk about digital and green skills, which are hot topics at this point in time. And if we look at what's happening now in the world of recruitment, we had the furlough scheme end on the 30th September. So about 1 million people still on that scheme. So there's a lot of uncertainty about will these people be coming back to work? Will there be redundancy? So we may see a increase in people looking for work. There are skill shortages in the hospitality and tourism businesses. They are particularly struggling to find people, along with elder care and some reluctance perhaps for some of those people to take on staff who aren't vaccinated. With hospitality and tourism, there's also the pending VAT increase, which may affect the ability of employers to take on new staff. And we have employers who are wanting to take on new people and look at ways of developing them and growing their businesses. So when we look at West London, we have the West London Alliance, and the topics that they have from a survey from a year or so ago were the top 5 skills that people are looking for, special skills or knowledge needed to perform specific roles. So that could be technology skills with Microsoft Office and advanced skills in Excel, for example, for processing data, or knowledge or specific finance packages or order management systems. The next thing that people are looking for is knowledge of products and services offered by employers or similar organizations. That's a key skill. The third skill that comes up on the list is the ability to solve complex problems and based on a specific situation. So again, those problem solving skills come to the fore. Another couple of topics are ability to adapt to new equipment or materials. So how, if I change a machine or I change the way we use the raw materials that go into our process, how quickly can our team adapt to that? And the fifth one is again in the soft skill space, which is about understanding how employer organizations work, particularly for school leavers and higher education people moving into the workforce. They may be unclear about how an organization works, what needs to be achieved, the political and the social aspects of that. So all of those topics are key on the list of skills that employers are looking for. So that's the background to our session, and we'll be talking to our expert panel. So our expert panel today includes Billy Seago, who is the manager at the Forge at Park Royal. We have Elsa Caleb from Brandywin. We have Elpa Capacity from the BBVS joint venture, and Angela John from the DWP at the Hounslow Job Centre, Marcelos Lindo from London Borough of Brent, who's one of the team working with Billy at the Forge, and Fabio Navala from the Shaw Trust. So I'd like to hand it over to each of the panelists to do a bit of an introduction about themselves and what they do and their role, and then we'll start with the questions and answers from there. Billy, I think you're first up on this list.
Hi, good morning, everyone. As Tony, thanks for the introduction. Thanks for the brief about today as well. I'm Billy Seago. I manage the Forge at Park Royal. I work for OPDC, which is the Old Oak and Park Royal Development Corporation. I'm here with my colleague Marcelos Lindo. So essentially, OPDC, we are funded by HS2, by the BLEF fund, the Business and Local Economy Fund, to set up a program that will engage with local SMEs on Park Royal and those who are disrupted by HS2, and to connect with those businesses to get local residents from Brent, Ealing and Hammersmith Fulham boroughs into employment. So it's really about connecting local communities to local businesses. Obviously, we're just at the end of year one. I started on August the 10th last year at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. So year one's really been about setting up. We're collaborative. I can't employ colleagues directly because of funding restraints. So very kindly, the three boroughs I've mentioned, DWP and the Shaw Trust, have all loaned staff to the project. So Fabio will join us shortly, I'm hoping. He's from the Shaw Trust. Angela John's with us now. She's a work coach with DWP. And Marcelos is with Brent, all of whom are specialisms. And the reasons why we've gone to those local partners is because of those specialisms, and they can reach the kind of most disadvantaged in those three boroughs. So we're collaborative, we're funded by HS2, and we're really here to connect local businesses with local communities to strengthen the workforce. And we've actually adopted quite a unique recruitment model. So we've got staff loaned to us, which is pretty challenging, but we are getting there. And so far we've got 41 residents from those three boroughs into employment, which is quite an achievement considering the pandemic. Obviously, we have colleagues on the call today, so we'd love to talk to you about your recruitment needs, how we can help you. And I think that's enough from me, and I'll hand back to Tony. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Billy. That's a great introduction. Just highlighting the sort of the local connection that we're trying to build, because the local authorities and local businesses, this is drive to add value to the local economy, and by employing local people who are living and working inside these boroughs, then that will help with economic growth simply by the fact that they have jobs and they have more money to spend in the local neighborhood. So thanks for that, Billy. So next guest on the list is Elsa Caleb from Brandywin. Morning, Elsa. Oh, you're on mute, Elsa.
Sorry. Morning, Tony. Morning, everyone. Okay. As Tony says, I'm from Brandywin. I'm one of the advisors that currently work. We're a leading group of advisors. We're based in London, and our focus is not just only London, but and the South East. And what's interesting about what we do, we work alongside businesses, and these are startups as well as, growth businesses. We've actually been able to help over 6,000 businesses. And what's great is that they actually benefit from all the various programs that we actually, put together, such as this one, for example. And also our focus is about expansion and job creation. I mean, Brandywin is a single source of support. And what's great about what we do, we're all generalists. Sorry, there are some generalists and some specialists. So whenever we're actually engaging with a business, you don't only just meet one advisor, you can have access to the team of specialists as well. I mean, most of our work is through third parties. But what's great is that we can identify funding. We can also, assist you with, the Fit to Bid program, which we currently do. And as I say, with regards to the Fit to Bid program, it allows you to build on what you currently have and also have great hope for the future. I mean, my role within the team of Brandywin is that of the strategic role. So, I mean, I love working with businesses to help them grow their business to such a level that, they really want to. Because sometimes when people are actually running their businesses, they forget the reason why they started in business. And sometimes they lose sight of really where they want to go. So, yes, I'm a team of I'm part of the team from Brandywin, and yeah, I'm here to assist where I can today. Thank you.
Great, thanks very much, Elsa. And we have Alpa Kapasi from the BBVS JV. Good morning, Alpa.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Fantastic. Good morning, everyone. My name is Alpa Kapasi. I work as the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Manager on the BBVS project. So this is the joint venture, which is Balfour Beatty, Vinci and Sistra. And we're working on behalf of HS2 in building the station at Old Oak Common up in northwest London. So for those of you that are familiar with the area, the Old Oak Common station straddles the three boroughs of Hammersmith and Fulham, Brent and Ealing. And we work really closely with the three boroughs in terms of, again, looking at local employment opportunities and trying to ensure that we can provide some opportunities on our project for local people, but also in terms of local business growth. So our project is 2 years in its development, and so we're still fairly new and fairly embryonic, but we've achieved a huge amount of work in the last year or two. So I work really closely with my colleague, Elliot Murphy. Elliot is the Skills, Employment and Education Manager. And so many of you may have heard of him already and come across him. And essentially, there are a couple of different approaches that we're taking here. So Elliot works really closely with local employment providers in terms of providing employment opportunities at the Old Oak Common Station and in this development. Now, the development is a 10-year development with funding of around £2 billion. So it's a huge development. It's a huge opportunity for the growth and the regeneration of these three boroughs and local communities there. So Elliot works with the local employment providers to ensure that any opportunities that we have or that our supply chain partners have are actually shared through the local employment brokers. And so we work with the Shaw Trust, we work with the DWP, we work with the OPDC and the local authorities. We also work really closely with local kind of the talent pipeline coming into jobs in engineering, construction, and the other roles that we have within the project. We work with local schools to try and encourage young people to get involved in STEM subjects, to think about apprenticeships, to think about the opportunities that were available on our project. So in terms of the work that we do, we've taken an evidence-based approach, and so we've looked really closely at the data in terms of the three boroughs that we're working in. And we've tried to identify the areas that need the greatest help and the greatest support. And so those are the areas that we work with 18 schools. So it's over 20,000 pupils that we're working within the local boroughs to try and encourage that pipeline. From an equality, diversity and inclusion perspective, obviously my focus is very much in trying to make sure that we're targeting the area that have the greatest need, that we're trying to encourage people that are traditionally underrepresented in our project and in the industry to try and have those opportunities. And so we're looking specifically at, for example, girls' schools. We work quite closely with women and girls. We're also looking at underrepresentation in terms of BAME communities, so Black, Asian, minority ethnic communities, disabled people, etc. So really taking a very inclusive approach in terms of the opportunities that we provide. So I'm happy to share some of our experience with you as we go through the discussion, obviously to answer any questions. But just to add to that, we're also working really closely with our suppliers, and we currently have about 20 suppliers that we work with, working really closely with them to look at how we diversify the supply chain. So how do we encourage local business growth by trying to work with our suppliers to engage local businesses to win contracts on our project, so that we're creating that more diverse supply chain. So there's lots of stuff that I could talk to you about, but I'm going to stop at that point and obviously answer any questions and help with the discussion as we go through.
Great, thanks very much, Elsa. And Elpa, sorry, Elpa.
Right.
And we have Angela John from the DWP at the Hounslow Job Centre. Good morning, Angela.
Yes, good morning, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here this morning. So I work with Billy and the team at the Forge at Park Royal. And my other day job was, up until 6 months ago, as a work coach for the Department for Work and Pensions. Quite a challenging role, making sure that you support vulnerable claimants as well as people who are recently made redundant due to the COVID pandemic. So it's wearing two hats and doing two jobs, but it's a real pleasure to be able to support people back into work and really sort of help them on that journey, which can sometimes be extremely long and challenging. So it's good to see, A, the job market really picking up, and B, it's good to see that people are really keen and engaged and attend these sort of sessions to get themselves back into work. So looking forward to some questions hopefully later on, and looking forward to the discussion as well. Thank you.
Great, thanks very much, Angela. Marcellus, you're with Billy this morning as well.
Hi everyone, my name is Marcellus I also work on the Forge collaboration, but I also work for Brentworks as well, part of the Brent Council's arm to help Brent residents into employment. I'll touch briefly on the Kickstart scheme. I'll go into more depth later, but we will support residents and businesses in the Brent region with the Kickstart scheme, which obviously is the government funded scheme, which helps 16 to 24-year-olds into work. We're partway through the scheme right now. I know it's been extended until March, so we're just helping and supporting as much as we can, helping lots of different employers around the Brent region, but out of the Brent region as well, with candidates, as we are an intermediary helping candidates into employment, but also working with those employers to have long-term sustainable options for candidates as well. That's also the case with working with the Forge as well. So we'll be able to give support to businesses in the Park Royal area with Kickstart scheme and what it could mean after the fact in leading into apprenticeships and other opportunities for candidates, and obviously opportunities for businesses as well. So I can give more details about that, and I'll cascade some information out and send out my contact details if employers would like some more information. And also apprenticeships as well, so we can obviously transition from the Kickstart scheme into apprenticeships, or just general information about apprenticeships in general. So there's lots of different bits of information there we can cast out. So if anyone has any questions, they can contact me or contact me at the Forge and be able to give you lots of information about that.
Great, thanks very much, Marcellus. And we have Fabio Novella from the Shaw Trust. Good morning, Fabio.
Good morning. Apologies, I was a little bit late this morning, so I've missed obviously some part of the session. But yes, so I'm also on the Forge. Don't want to make it seem like a Forge fest, but also with the Forge. And I do also work alongside Shaw Trust. So in terms of supporting work and health program and JETS, job entry targeted support, which has obviously been extended as well. So yeah, I mean, we work heavily along the WLA as well in terms of obviously what we're doing in terms of jobs. So yeah, I mean, obviously just supporting the three boroughs in terms of Ealing, Hammersmith, Fulham and Brent, and happy to, like Marcella said, cascade information on probably a little bit of Shaw Trust, what we're up to, and yeah, how we can help.
Great, thanks very much, Fabio. Right, okay, so thanks for that, everybody, with the introductions there. Hopefully that gives the audience an understanding of the different people that are available to you from Brandywine, from BBVS JV, and from the Forge as well. As Billy said, the Forge is a collaborative enterprise for your recruitment needs, and with Brandywine we're helping to develop businesses get them on the path to recovery through this business development program. So moving into the discussion, one of the key things for me, and I think Marcellos, you talked about the Kickstart program. Kickstart program is scheduled to end at the end of the year. Are companies still able to take advantage of the Kickstart scheme, and what should they be doing if so?
Yeah, I mean, employers can still, even before the Chancellor's announcement about extending the scheme, employers can still apply for Kickstarter candidates. But now it's been extended till March. Employers can request Kickstarter candidates up until, I think it's December the 17th. So it just depends on how many candidates the employers actually wanted. There's a bit of criteria in regards to what would be a suitable candidate. So for example, it's the candidates would need to be between the ages of 16 to 24. Candidates need to be, potential candidates need to be on universal credit. I think there's other criteria as well that candidates could not have worked for the employer before.
Right.
But if any of the employers who want more information about it, like I said, I can cascade that information out. But it's a great scheme to help individuals into employment. It's a great scheme for employers as well, just to, you know, try candidates, because they can take on candidates and the government will cover up to 25 hours of pay for that candidate. So the employer can potentially actually have that candidate on their books for free for those 25 hours. And that's for up to 6 months. So as long as the employers have registered that candidate and before December the 17th, so even if they start in February next year, they'll still have 6 months of cover of the wage covered for that period. And then after that, we could always give support in regards if the employer wants to take that person on as maybe as an apprenticeship, or even if the employer's obviously bowled over by how good that candidate is, they can actually just take them on and they can be on their normal salary scheme. But it's a great way for employers to actually take on candidates and see where they go from there.
So Tony, is it just a question for Marcellos from me? I'm assuming, Marcellos, that part of the role that boroughs will do, because Brent and Ealing and Hampton Fulham also are Kickstart providers too, gateways as well.
Yes.
You would screen and match, wouldn't you, candidates?
Yeah. One of the things of the benefits of being the intermediaries and the gateways is we'll actually support the employer with making sure that they get the right candidates, because officially the scheme is supposed to be jobs get advertised with DWP, and then DWP will send over candidates to the employer. But as a gateway, we will actually screen candidates, work with candidates, making sure that the employer will get the right candidates over to them. And obviously, because of the gateway as well, and because of our expertise, we will make sure that the candidates sent over to the employer are suitable, have the right motivation, got the right experience, which the employer wants. So it takes a little bit of a headache from the employer.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. Thanks, Marcellos. And I think one of the key things about the Kickstart scheme is that it's designed to get those young people into work who have a risk of long-term unemployment. Angela, I saw you had your hand up. Did you want to add something to that?
Yes, I just wanted to sort of touch on Kickstart from a DWP point of view. There is a huge focus from the DWP to support Kickstart. We actually have a dedicated team of work coaches that work with candidates of that age group, and also account managers who work with potential employers. So that is a huge focus for the DWP, key priority to work with Kickstarters from an employee perspective. So I just wanted to touch on that as well.
Okay, great. Thanks very much, Angela. If anybody has any questions for the panel as we go along, just do drop them into the chat and let us know, what your concerns are. I think talking about Kickstarter and talking about young people, also one of the biggest challenges I think we have with employers is understanding how do we get creatives into a business, and I know you've been working with that with some of our smaller businesses. Do you want to give us a bit of insight into what to look for when taking on a creative?
Yes, Tony. What's interesting about creative people is that they're quite disciplined in the craft that they actually represent. And sometimes people forget that. So they do remain grounded. But I think because of their the way of, sometimes they dream through things and then make it a reality, doesn't quite conform with the way that we do business. because they like, you know, they like that freedom of expression, and it doesn't quite fit into that business box. But one thing I will say, they're true risk takers. Okay, and don't forget that they're willing to be different. They can be a bit impulsive, you know, with regards to that, but they're good at solving problems, quite open, but at the same time innovative. And I find that a lot of businesses need that innovative involvement now if they want to, how can I say, stand out, you know, from the rest. If you want to have that edge, if you want that unique selling point, etc., that innovation is so important. The confidence, as you know and I know, will actually sit really strongly in what they do. But then when you take them out of their comfort zones, such as, you know, go to an interview and talk about, you know, business, etc. And sometimes if you ask them to talk about themselves, you'll find that they actually lack the confidence. So yeah, that's how I would say creatives tend to, you know, come out.
And do you think that when you have these creatives that they need boundaries to be set out at the front, because sometimes they can be a bit shy and retiring, so it's about having that open and honest conversation with them to explain how things work and then reinforcing the message as you go along in a polite and constructive manner?
Yeah, Tony, I quite agree. You're talking to a creative person, you know, I mean, my background is the creative. So although I had a lot of boundaries, and a lot of people, they do have the boundaries, it's to be, how can I say, those boundaries need to be clear. And once they know what it is that you want, and they know how far they can go, and so what's in it for you, what's in it for them, they'll be fine.
Okay. And that's always interesting with the creators as well, is making sure that they can talk to you, I think, and be clear about it and not worry about, oh, am I doing things right or wrong? Just be upfront and open with them and delve into the challenges as they arise.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's interesting. So Elpa has a hand up as well. Thanks, Elsa. Elpa, you have your hand up.
Yes, just wanted to add another point to that. So I think it's always worth, you know, when you're recruiting, it's always worth, especially with young people, thinking about people that do come from other backgrounds or other industries, because I think quite often they have skills and talents that which you may just not see immediately. So as an example, on our project, whilst we recruit a number of apprenticeships, we also undertake work placement. So quite often we'll bring people in on a work placement, give them an opportunity to see what the industry has to offer, to what our project has to offer, but also to give us an opportunity to see what they can do for us. And just as an example, we had a young man called Jamel recently who attended an event that was organised by Brentworks. And so I think Brentworks was involved. Colleagues from our project went along and spoke about the opportunities we had available. And as a result of that event, he was really proactive. So this young man had a sports science degree. So he'd had a sports science degree, he was a graduate. I think he was working in a local business, a local small business. And so he was really proactive, picked up the telephone, rang up my colleague Elliot, and basically said, I'd really like to come and work with you. What kind of opportunities do you have? So we brought him in on a work placement, on a 5-week work placement. He's been working with us in our procurement supply chain department, and actually has absolutely flourished. I mean, he's only been there about 3 weeks now. For years, he's become really well established. He's got to know people really well. He's trying lots of different things, getting involved in lots of different departments. He's obviously an incredibly confident young man who, whilst he's not worked in the industry or doesn't come from a business background, has adjusted really well to the environment. And just as one very small example, I kind of gave him a bit of a challenge last week. As part of National Inclusion Week, we organised an event for our young professionals. It was a young professionals panel where we invited young professionals working across Balfour Beatty, Vinci and Sistra to come and talk about their experiences of being young professionals within the industry, to talk about what they were looking for in terms of their career, etc. And this young man joined the event and was incredible, was really positive, was able to share his experience of joining the project and what that's been and what he's looking for out of his career. As a result of which, you know, we had senior managers contacting us saying, why have we not employed this guy? You know, what is going on here? So I think it is worth kind of taking a risk and giving those young people an opportunity, because actually you find that they have all sorts of skills that are really positive and suitable.
That's great. Thanks, Alp. And that's an interesting story as well, because what you're doing there is, like with the creators we've talked about with Els, was giving them those boundaries to operate in, which provides a safe environment for them to experiment in and learn from, and therefore they're keen to take on those challenges and deliver for you. So that was quite good. So thanks for that, Alpa. Had a couple of questions come in. So I think Lalit is looking for some help with a Kickstart application that they've submitted, but they've not heard anything from it. Lalit, we'll take your details, and perhaps you can follow up with Marcellus afterwards and see if there's a way of expediting that, or maybe looking at some help on that one.
I think we need to know which borough the leak is from as well. And then maybe that's something Angela can pick up if it's a DWP issue or something with the gateway provider.
Yeah, absolutely. I can have a look at that.
Yeah. Okay. So Lalit, we'll send out the details afterwards, and if you can contact Angela or Marcellus from the panel, they'll get back to you as to see what's going on with that. Okay. Cassandra's asked the question, what's been the biggest challenge getting young people onto the Kickstart program? I guess, Angela, that might be one for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest challenge has been the skills gap, because a lot of the young people that the DWP are interacting with don't have the level of experience and skills required to get into some of the more technical roles. So the feedback that I hear from my DWP colleagues when I touch base with them on a regular basis is that, and also there's a level of commitment. Some of the jobs are paying minimum wage, and some of the younger people are not that keen to take up those roles. And it may just be a case of encouraging them to take those roles as a starter to see if they can get their foot in the door. So that seems to be the biggest feedback from the DWP about Kickstart.
Okay, thanks, Angela. Is there any concern that you're hearing about the fact that the Kickstart is only 6 months and it's half time? Does that add to the commitment challenges, do you think?
A little bit, yes. I mean, of course, 6 months for anybody who's job hunting, when you look at those contracts that go out that say, 12 months, 9 months, that is a concern, because job security is the #1 factor at the moment, especially post-pandemic. So yeah, that seems to be one of the other concerns, but the highlight was really the commitment of that age group.
Okay, great. Thanks, Angela. And Fabio, you add something to that?
Yeah, I was just going to say, obviously, Marcellus and Angela, please correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I understand from Kickstart, the employers can top up in the sense that someone can do 25 hours, but if an employer wants them to do 40 hours, then the 25 hours would be covered, those would be paid, but then it'd be up to the employer to pay the 15 hours. So you don't have to just work 25 hours. And obviously 6 months for a young person is probably more security than I suppose they get from a lot of other roles, because they tend to move around. So I do think as well, there is that option in terms of employers to be flexible. They don't have to pay the minimum wage. They can top up, and they can pay above the minimum wage to attract, a younger or attract people to their role. So we do try and encourage employers to try to get more towards London living wage anyway. And I think obviously because Kickstart, we say young person, but I try to not think of a 23, 24-year-old always as young as as a young person in my mind. So I think it's you can attract some really great candidates, and I think this is hopefully it creates an emphasis on employers to think about what they offer and how they attract. If you're getting nothing from Kickstart, it's the same as if you're getting nothing from a job role you put out there. You have to question why your job role isn't really attracting the right person. So I think it gives employers that scope, and I think it gives them some food for thought, really.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Fabio. And I think that's an interesting point, because these people are young in terms of their experience, so they're getting started, and it's about making sure that they've got that right framework to allow them to thrive and prosper in those environments, and Kickstart could be a great way for doing that. And I've seen examples of someone who has used Kickstart as a kind of training program to bring their team in, work for clients, and do real live marketing projects, and then look at ways of allowing those people to move on to other organizations, perhaps to clients or to other agencies. So there are ways that employees can be creative as well in the use of Kickstart. And Angela, yes.
Sorry, I'm back again. There
Yeah,
are
that's okay.
questions from Cassandra Hamilton, so I just wanted
Yeah,
to
sure.
make sure we don't miss those because they do relate to Kickstart. So the first question Cassandra is asking is, what has the feedback from young people on the Kickstart program been? Now that is a great question, Cassandra, because at the moment I don't particularly have that feedback right now for you, but I'm happy to get that for you because, of course, as I mentioned earlier, that Kickstart is the flagship for the DWP and it's the main focus. So I will definitely get that for you. I will ask for your email if that's okay, if you want to put it in the chat. And the second question you've asked, again, a great question, is how are employers managing their Kickstart placements? Now, one of the things I've heard is that a lot of inductions are being done remotely. It's a huge challenge for a young person or a young adult who has perhaps never worked remotely, perhaps doesn't even have the technology. A lot of people have smartphones, but they don't have laptops, etc. So the DWP is very keen to make sure we have provision for that. While I was working in the job centre at Hounslow, we were offering purchase of laptops to support this and also educating people on how to work remotely on their own in silo while the pandemic was at the height of its lockdowns and what have you. So definitely, they're two great questions, and I will definitely get that information for you regarding the percentage of Kickstarters that we've got into the programme.
Okay, great. Thanks, Angela. We can put you in touch with Cassandra after this as well. Although Henna has chipped in to say she's hired two people via the Kickstart program and it's going very well. And I have seen some of the material that Henna's team have been producing on social media through the Content Architect, and it is quite creative and quite interesting to see what is out there. So thanks for that, Angela. Thanks, Henna. Ruth from the Pallet Yards is asking about taking on apprentices. Now, I know with the Pallet Yard that they probably don't qualify for the apprenticeship levy. So I think the question for me, for our apprenticeship experts, is if I'm not a levy payer, how do I go about it, Fabio?
There is a levy transfer, and there are apprenticeship providers who look at levy transfers, because there are employers who are fortunate that they will never spend all their levies. So again, there is levy transfer available for a lot of organizations to kind of subsidize that 5%. So in essence, there are many sort of training providers out there who can almost pretty much offer an apprenticeship for free, regardless of what the apprenticeship is. It's a case of obviously just going and trying to find the right provider, right training provider. And I think it's, obviously the government website will help, but if anyone needs anything specifically with hospitality, I can probably recommend one or two in terms of apprenticeship providers who will probably look at levy transfers, because that should be more and more common, because the idea is there is enough levy pot available for everyone, ideally.
Okay, great. Thanks, Fabio. And perhaps Billy, or at the Forge, have you got something in place that enables potential employers to come to you and start talking about apprenticeships and how to
Certainly
use levy
have.
transfer?
Obviously, sorry, Tony, we do. Well, obviously we've got the expertise that Fabio, Marcellos and other colleagues can provide. Also, some councils will have some levy transfer available as well. I know Brent Council have been looking at this for employees within Brent. As the pallet yards in Ealing, there may be some opportunity there to talk to Ealing Council about that. We can certainly start that conversation. But in regard to Ruth's, I'll put something in the chat to Ruth. We'll be happy to assist with your recruitment needs. And yeah, we can help you find a provider for that and a framework as well for those apprentices too.
Great, thanks very much, Billy. Hopefully that helps Ruth out with that particular question. And just touching on something that that Angela brought up is around the skills topic, and I oftentimes hear people talking about digital skills and green skills and soft skills, and have to continue to remind myself what each of those terms mean, particularly for digital skills. We're talking about the essential skills framework. Would somebody like to sort of give us some insight into what do we mean by digital skills? What are employers talking about with digital skills? Anybody want to come in on that one?
From my understanding of digital skills, Tony, I think we're talking obviously about IT, ability to use IT, ability to use Microsoft Office or Office 365. I mean, that's as a basic starter. So be really familiar with that. Obviously, to use the internet and the social media platforms as well. That's a great way to find work, actually, and to advertise work. I mean, you put vacancies on LinkedIn, for example, and Twitter, and a lot of people do use those social media platforms to find work and to promote your business too. And that's my basic understanding of it. So I'll leave that as a starter for 10.
Okay, great. Thanks very much. Elsa.
Yeah, what I'll say from a business point of view, digital skills is really, I suppose, their new marketing way, well, the way of marketing their businesses at the moment. What's interesting is that young people do this all the time. And sometimes they don't have the confidence or feel that they don't actually have the digital marketing skills. But if you actually sit down with them and you've got the time to explain to them that this is what you want, this is how you want to do it, you'll find that it is a good match. Yeah, but sometimes, how can I say, the businesses may not have the time or the resources to actually train them, or also to get the young people to understand their vision for the company. Do you know what I mean? It's that embracing them on a day-to-day basis and letting them realize that they are part of the team. You can do this. You've got the confidence. So therefore, let's work together.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks, Elsa, because I think sometimes we forget that these people have grown up in a digital age and they kind of understand what they can do, but they've not necessarily had the opportunity to articulate that in a formal way. Elpa, I can see you've got your hand up as well. Did you want to add something to that? I think Angela and Fabio are all keen to contribute as well. Oops, sorry, I can't hear you, Elpa.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Apologies for that, as my microphone is playing up. So I just wanted to kind of add to what Angela was saying in terms of our experience. So we took an apprentice on in our team, in the HR team, as an HR apprentice, as an HR project coordinator. And one of the key areas that we'd identified on the description. Oh, can you hear me?
Yep, there was just a bit of a freeze there. Keep going.
Yes. Yes, so we appointed an HR coordinator as an apprentice recently, again, a local person, a young woman called Neve. And digital skills is one of the areas that we identified on the role description because it's an area that we all kind of struggle with. And so we thought, we've got this young person coming in, hopefully they'll be much more familiar with digital skills in the way that we're not. And I'd completely reinforce what Angela was saying. So when she first came in, there was a slight nervousness and a slight anxiety, maybe a bit of a lack of confidence. But actually, with the right kind of support, what she showed is that actually she does have all of those skills, and it's just faster at being able to digest the information, to process the information, and to learn how to use all the different systems. So actually, for us, digital skills are very much about, at the basic level, having familiarity with, Office 365, etc. But I think it's really just giving them that opportunity to just be able to have that confidence and to share those skills.
Okay, great. Thanks very much, Elpa. Angela, you've got your hand up as well.
Yes, I just wanted to kind of touch on the digital skill issue. There is also a group of over 50s that is a main focus to get back into work aside from Kickstart apprenticeships. And this group is particularly IT challenged. So part of the provision that the DWP has available is to retrain. So there are courses that people are offered at West Thames College. And this is a huge issue, especially if you have been working in the same job for over 35 years, which some people in this area have at Heathrow Airport. They had a very good, long-standing job for life with some airlines, for example, and suddenly they are no longer employed, and suddenly they find that they don't have the digital skills to equip them with Teams, Zoom, BlueJeans, you name it, those sort of platforms that we all use on a daily basis. So that's another focus for over 50s to support this work group back into work post-pandemic.
Okay, great. Thanks very much, Angela. And that again is the other end of the scale is those people who have spent a lot of time outside of the digital space, and how do they develop those skills? Fabio, you want to contribute? Yep.
Yeah, I was just going to say, obviously, because I saw David's question as well, where he says obviously he's a bit busy, and obviously he's got, in terms of trying to sort of deal with recovery, as well as obviously everything else that's happened over the last 18 months. And I think it ties in a little bit to digital skills, ties into a little bit of everything. Regardless of who you get in, there's always going to be that time pressure from an employer where you're going to need to show them how you work, because you'll have someone who's been in an organization 30 years who will have developed habits, and you'll have someone who's never worked who won't have developed habits. So it's time is the most precious commodity, and for an apprenticeship to work well, time is needed, and regardless of who you take on, time is always going to be important. And it's really, apprenticeships at the heart of it, as hiring a young person, they can give energy to someone else, because you identify leaders and mentors within your business who will help and improve others around them, and that can give a lift to everyone else. And there are things out there like Boost Hospitality. I know I've mentioned hospitality a couple of times, but Boost Hospitality, which is like free training available out there. So there is always provisions out there which potentially could help you in terms of structure, what you want to do. But what we're trying to really kind of get to, and I think what we all want, is employers to sort of be in a position where they're not just corporate social responsibility is not just a buzzword, but it becomes a doing kind of action thing. And I think it's really important to kind of just focus on that. And time is the one thing which I go, you need to identify leaders and hopefully give them time to coach whoever comes in of whatever age.
And I think that's an important point, Fabio, because what we're saying is that you take these people on, you're investing in their future so that they can be a leader in your organization, but also you're investing in that because you want your organization to grow. And as this person grows with your organization, you're able to transfer those responsibilities to them as the organization grows and thrives. I know Dave is very busy at the moment. He's also got a challenge where putting someone in a car on the road under 22 can't be insured. So maybe some 23, 24-year-olds might qualify under the scheme. Elsa, you had something to add to that, and then Billy?
Yeah, just to say, and it's not that I'm advertising outright, but from November in Brent, we will be working with another partner to actually assist the businesses in relation to the digital marketing. So I'd say watch this space in Brent.
Okay, thanks, Elsa. Billy?
Yeah, I just wanted to reinforce what Angela and Fabio have articulated. I mean, we're not just talking about younger people, we're talking about older people. An older person can be an apprentice now. It's not just 16 to 24-year-olds anymore. So we're talking about retraining and reskilling older workers, older people, some of whom will have been, as Angela said, in a job for a lifetime, and because of COVID have been made redundant. We're talking about upskilling people, existing staff, and mentoring people as well. So fully appreciate the time pressures that businesses are under, especially as recovering from the pandemic. But if you invest in your staff, if you adopt a mentoring system where somebody's been an experienced or a manager can look after that person, then that person will grow. If you invest in your staff, then that reduces churn and that reduces cost of recruiting again. Having said that, the Forge is a free recruitment service. And the young person that Alpa was referring to, Neve, was our first placement on the Forge. So that's a good success story for us.
That's great. Thanks very much, Billy. I can see that Raja has asked the question, what would be the best way to get young people into the care sector? And we know that there are challenges recruiting into the care sector at the moment because of the gaps in there and the lack of available people to actually take on these roles. So is there a strategy that someone could recommend perhaps about getting these young people into care related work? Is that
yeah, I've got Marcellos here.
Marcellos, thank you, Marcellos.
Ways. I mean, I'm working in the Brent region. I'm working with a few employers in regards to care positions, but it's also as well our sister department in the council, Brent Start. They run sector-based work academies as well, as an introduction into care. So they do level 1, level 2. I think they're starting looking at level 3. Health and social care sector-based work academies, and we have employers attached to that as well. So once they've actually completed the course, it's a stepping stone that they actually get some guaranteed interviews with some of those care providers as well. And care providers will get involved with some of the classes in regards to speaking about the different roles and vacancies that are actually in the care sector, the long-term development whilst working in care. So that is one avenue that we're working with.
Okay, great. Thanks, Marcellus. Raja, does that help with your question? Just let us know. But I guess if you want to know more, Raja, have a chat with Marcellus. Yes, Raja will provide you with Marcellus's details as well. That would be great. Thank you. Okay, excellent. Thanks, Raja. And the other piece that we talk about and as employers and as trainers is these soft skills, and I think that when we talk about STEM subjects, so science, technology, engineering, maths, they're very tangible. We can understand them. We know what they look like. But when it comes to the soft skills, people always worry about those and wonder, what do we have? And if we're talking about team working, coaching, customer satisfaction, influencing skills, presentation skills, other types of topics that we talk about, but also it's about being able to manage people and motivate and staff and do objective settings and things like this. So some of the questions I had were around that. What do people look for in terms of a structure that enables people to build these soft skills? Do we go in there with a training program for these people, or do we just sort of work it out as we go along? Does anybody have some thoughts on that? Angela.
It's one of my favorite topics, soft skills. I read a very interesting article on LinkedIn this week that they should really be called human skills, because you can't train soft skills. In my experience, I worked from the bottom up to get to where I am in my career today, and at no point did I attend any training or skills to develop my soft skills. I think it's all about emotional IQ, and having an empathy is really, really important for me to be able to, especially in a work coach role, when you meet people from all walks of life who have perhaps at their worst when I interact with them. So it's really important to apply my human / soft skills to make sure that they get the benefit of my expertise and they are pointed in the right direction. So my opinion, you cannot train it. It comes as a natural course when the person is given the responsibility of being a line manager or a supervisor. I'm sure there's some disagreement out there, but I stress my opinion.
Yeah, thanks very much, Angela. I think Fabio wants to chip in. I think Billy's also got his hand up as well.
Yeah, I was just going to say, for me, I echo a lot of what Angela said. I think obviously soft skills, common sense, however you want to phrase it, it's all there. But I think the best way to learn generally, people, in terms of learning styles, it's identifying the person you have in front of you. It's identifying how they learn best, whether they're a visual learner, and this goes back to school. And I think sometimes a lot of children, it's not that they don't learn, it's just they're not taught in the right way. So I think when you get someone in a workplace, it's identifying who they are and what you can kind of instill in them. And I think generally this is when, again, I echo it in terms of creating leaders and people within your organization who are going to be invested in helping you grow will help the new person come in. And I think that's ultimately what, the more leaders we create, the more people you're creating who can drive your business forward, because ultimately they'll either grow into a new role because you're growing, or they'll be good enough to train whoever comes on board, or ultimately be in a position where they have freedom of choice. And I think a lot of it is common sense, a lot of it is teaching people how to be more confident within themselves. So yeah, I echo a little bit what Angela said.
Great, thanks Fabian. And I think part of that is about telling people what you want rather than how to do it, so giving them the guidelines and the support to do that. Billy, yes.
Yeah, I think from my experience, I started out in this game about 20 plus years ago as a job broker advisor, so working with disadvantaged people, both young people and older people. My experience is I'm very fortunate. I come from a very supportive family, 2 parents, and soft skills, as Angela and Fabio were saying, soft skills are ingrained as you grow up. Some people haven't got them. And you can teach a hard skill. You can teach someone how to use a machine or how to drive a lorry, whatever it might be. What you can't teach as easily are those skills around confidence, about language, about how you present yourself. All those skills are key for an interview. So a lot of the work that colleagues in job brokerage do in BrentWorks and WorkZone in Hampton and Fulham and in WorkWest is to actually work with that individual to try and nurture those skills. I know when I've worked with apprentices, young people particularly, who are very shy, very underconfident, and you can see them grow if the apprenticeship is managed properly in inverted commas, and that's really key. So I'm looking at it from a perspective unemployed person or person who's out of work for a long time point of view. We have to work with them, got a lot of pre-employment work to get to that stage where they can confidently handle an interview and then go through the induction process at work. It's very confident. It's very important in my opinion. You can't prejudge people. Can't prejudge people.
Don't prejudge people. Be open-minded. Thank you, Billy. Elpa, you wanted to add something to that as well.
Yeah, I think just to add from an employer's perspective. So I think I completely agree that a lot of these skills are skills that you learn at a very early age, and maybe through education, through your family, parents, etc. But actually, I think one of the things that you can do when you bring new people in, or especially when you've got apprentices or younger people, it's about the role modeling and the shadowing. So what we tend to do is we will give opportunities. So, you know, if the managers within the team are establishing the right kind of standards and the right kind of behaviors, and young people get the opportunity to shadow these people, they get to see exactly what is required, what are the expectations, you know, what do we expect in terms of how you conduct yourself in this type of environment. And so I think there's a big role for us to play as employers in terms of doing that role modeling and allowing them to shadow. And as Billy said, then watching them grow in confidence and flourishing.
Yeah, and I think that's important. And in my background, as part of the Association for Project Management, they focus a lot on some of these, as you call them, Elpa, the human skills. And there's lots of theories out there. There's Belbin and there's Hershey Blanchard and there's the Thomas Kilmann model for collaboration and all of these tools. And they give you guidelines, but they don't really teach you how to use them really well. But what it does give you is insight into how people behave and the reasons why they do what they do. And I think perhaps as managers we need a bit more of that training to understand that there's a human element to it. I recall with the Hershey Blanchard model, it's supposed to be where you kind of coach these people through, and then you're supporting them, and then you're helping them by delegating tasks to them and giving them that, and then you can kind of delegate to them as a final stage of that model. But a lot of people seem to be I've told you what to do, now go away and do it, and come back to me when you've got a problem. And it's kind of like it feels very much a yo-yo backwards and forwards, and I'm not getting what I want. So it's about spending that time and investing in these people over the time that they're working for you. Yeah, thanks Elpa. We're also talking about green skills, which is a bit different, and green skills are really starting to think about that focus on the environment, on power, technology, topics like that. So, you know, at the moment, it's quite topical. We've got the COP26 summit coming up in November. But again, green skills. What do we mean by green skills? Is that something that we've covered, that people are confident with, or is it something that's still a bit unclear as to how do we go about getting these green skills? Fabio,
I was going to jump in there. I think it's obviously still quite, not necessarily a new thing, but still very much, I suppose, in its infancy. And I think it's about culture and values, and embedding them into kind of the organization that you are in. And I think this is where, you know, the world has changed. The world is constantly changing in terms of, you know, from a HR perspective. If you look at where HR was 10, 15 years ago to where it is now, in terms of characteristics, in terms of so many things that you need to be aware of. And it's a case of how do you make everything more inclusive. And I think in terms of green skills, it's touching a little bit about that, but it's also understanding in terms of your environment. And I think, you know, it'd be wrong to say I'm fully confident on it. I'm not. And I think that's not an expectation where I think all employers will be fully aware of what it is. But I think it's that looking into it and growing within that is the only expectation, which I think anyone could put on anyone at the moment, really.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Fabio. I think one of the challenges for me is that green skills really is about the built environment. It's about you know, retrofitting for insulation, or about maybe transferring your boiler to a heat pump, or in my case, you know, I've put LED lights in all of my house. One of the downsides of putting lights in LED lights was that the temperature in the house dropped by a couple of degrees, because I'm no longer using halogen lights with all the heat that they generate. But it's about having that confidence. Go, Billy. Yes.
Yeah, hi. Just from the OPDC's point of view, the old Oakham Public Development Corporation point of view, We're putting a lot of investment into Park Royal around things like heat transfer from data centres, from solar panels, increasing broadband capacity, 5G on the estate as well. So looking at also sustainable transport models around more cycling, more infrastructure for that. We've recently funded Park Royal Business Group around electric vans,
Right.
sort of shared service that I think is only operating in Hammersmith and Fulham at the moment, I think. So it's things like that. And the West London Alliance have put together a bid that West London College have put a bid into GLA, part of the Good Growth Fund, around the Green Skills Academy. So looking at green skills, training people up for those, for the emerging technologies and technologies that simply aren't around yet, that will be coming in the future. So those are the things I'm talking about from a business point of view, about those technologies will become increasingly important around, electricity usage, generating electricity, all those issues are becoming, waste disposal, all that kind of stuff, which is key for businesses, is going to become increasingly important in years to come, and the new jobs that creates as well.
Yeah, and that is an interesting one, Billy, because I think that from looking at it and thinking about the Park Royal Business Estate, there's an opportunity to install solar panels to increase the power supply. That's a sustainable, energy-friendly side. There's also looking at sustainability and thinking about transportation sustainability. How can we reduce the number of journeys we need to do in our business? We have a fleet of vehicles. Can we reduce the number of trips we need to make, or can we swap the vehicles around and go greener from that? And how do we prove it? And some of it as a small business, and ESG, which is environmental, social and governance, is a new term that is emerging into the consciousness aligned to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And councils are typically looking at sustainable development goal number 11, which is all about the city environment and how to make cities better. So there is a lot of information out there in that space. So green skills. So there's, Billy will follow up with David about the way of hiring people, and also I think Fabio would do that. There is the Park Royal Business Group breakfast next week as well. I think, Billy, you're going to be there for that as well and presenting at that. So it's probably another opportunity to talk about skills and kickstart with
definitely
some of the local businesses. Are there any other questions from people out there in the audience at the moment? I know the panel have been talking a lot and covering topics, but are there any specific topics that anybody from the audience would like to raise questions about?
Tony, if not, I know I'm being cheeky, I'm from the panel, but I'd like to know what businesses need at the moment. What are the big needs around recruitment? That's what I'd like to know, and that's what the Forge at Park Royal can hopefully help with, because we can help businesses who aren't in Park Royal too if they're in the 3 boroughs we're working in.
Yeah, well, that's a good question, I think, Billy, because what we could do is I think we can open up the lines, if you like, and allow people to speak if that's possible. Is that possible? I think if anybody's got a question, what do you need from a recruitment service for the businesses that are out there? What sort of support are you looking for if you're in the Ealing, Hammersmith and Fulham, Brent boroughs? How could the Forge help you, and what would you need from them to help you recruit the right people?
Well, David's indicated he needs some support around interview techniques, so you recruit the right person, for example. So that's one way that we can help a business. So anything else, maybe around job descriptions, for example, and maybe around I don't know, if you need people and not kickstart apprenticeships or whatever it might be.
I was just going to say as well, to add to that, obviously the Forge, our website, where employers will be able to list jobs as well. That will help in terms of, obviously, it's a no cost thing. As long as we know what the job is, we will be happily listing your job, your vacancy. So obviously we will, be able to sort of promote opportunities for you as well. So, I mean, I know sometimes employers are going, I don't even know what to do when they need someone, but they don't even know where to begin. And I think from the Forge perspective, we'd be happy to grab that opportunity and put it out there. And obviously we will do as much of the pre-screen and sort of work that happens behind the doors. All we kind of really need from you is communication. But I think if you tell us what you're looking for, then we're all more than happy to help. And I think generally speaking, in terms of obviously Shaw Trust and the Forge reach, we can reach quite a lot of participants across West London. So I'd be keen to help.
Yep. Okay. Thanks, Fabio. I think while Billy and Fabio have been talking, so Dave has popped in there, said he'd like to have a conversation with you, so that would be good. Adrian has said that it's also about being able to write a good job description and where to advertise. And I think Billy, where I know this is a not necessarily a great topic for you, but when will the Forge website be available?
Well, the good news is it's actually live. There's some final tweaks to be done to it. I can put,
Right.
I can post the link in the chat. It's actually live. It's taken a long time to get to this point for various reasons, but we're here now.
Yeah.
There's some final wording that needs to go on there, but essentially that's where a business can post a vacancy. We'll check it to make sure it's legally compliant, for example, and then we can go back to a business and say, look, you need to tweak it here and there. For example, you can't say, you know, wanted barman or foreman, so it has to be legally compliant, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we can go back and help with that. It is live, and it's a big boon for us now. Also, all 3 boroughs have job sites as well. So anything that's on our job site will also be shared on Work West at Ealing, Hammersmith and Fulham Works, or Works as it used to be called, at Hammersmith and Fulham, and Brent Works as well. So those are 3 portals, 3 extra portals where you can advertise vacancies. Obviously, that's borough dependent, whereas the Forge crosses the 3 boroughs too.
Yeah.
So yes, BBVS will be promoting their vacancies on the Forge website too, and all that website will go out to all our community partners across the 3 boroughs as well. So there'll be quite a wide spread on that.
Okay.
I'll put the website in the chat now.
Yeah, and that'd be great, Billy. And what we'll do is we'll take those links and we'll use them as part of the distribution to participants afterwards, so they've got those links. Sounds like there could be an opportunity to do some training in the space of developing interview structures and things like this for some of the business, as well as what I'm taking away from what we've seen, Billy, is a little bit about how to prepare and plan for taking on new staff and what you need in terms of the skills and the job description. So
as a suggestion, Tony, that might be something that we can talk about for another webinar.
Yep. I think we've got some space, but obviously I'll have a conversation with Nows and you about that to make sure that we could present that in a way that works for people. But that's potentially a good idea. Yep.
Tony, and just to reinforce the point, next on the 13th at 9 o'clock at the Ace Cafe in Park Royal, Park Royal Business Group are holding a meeting about recruitment. I'll be there with Marcelos from Brent and the Forge. So you need to get onto Park Royal Business Group website and register. I think I think you have to pay if you're a member, you have to pay, but it's discounted if you're a member. Yeah, and I would recommend joining Park Royal Business Group as well. Yes,
I think joining the Park Royal Business Group, if you're part of the 3 boroughs, is a useful thing to be doing. I'll be there next week as well with the PRBG. I'm part of the advisory board there, so it's nice to see what's going on in the area. Elpa, you wanted to add something? I can see you've got your hand up.
Yes, just a bit of a point. So given that I come from a diversity and inclusion background, and that's my passion, I guess what I would urge is that for any training or any support that you're providing around job descriptions, around sourcing the right candidates, around interview skills, etc., is really to try and ensure that you've got that inclusion thread weaving through that. And knowing what I know of Billy, I'm sure that that'll be integral to everything you'll do. But just, if you need any help or support with that, then we're happy to help you with that. And also just to reinforce the point that all of our jobs that will be on the project will be going through the OPDC's website. And so, we're really keen that not only do we ensure that we get those diverse candidates coming through, but also that we're tracking that and monitoring to see what that diversity looks like. And also that we're getting candidate feedback in terms of what that experience has been for them, so that we can use that to shape and inform our approach in the future.
And just to add to that, sorry, Alpa, to jump in, I know I've got my hand up. Just to add to that, we are looking at, and where possible, we're going to anonymise all these submissions we put to vacancies. and therefore that will eliminate any possibility for any discrimination. Not to suggest for a second any business would do that, but
Yeah.
I've been burned in the past with that, so that's something we're looking at.
Could I just, sorry, just to respond to that, Billy, it might be worth us having a conversation about that, because with anonymizing CVs and applications, there's always that question of how far do you anonymize it?
Yeah, sure.
You know, so happy to kind of pick that up with you outside of the call.
Sure. I know it can be contentious, but it's something I'm quite keen on doing, but we need to make sure that it's win-win for the resident and for the employer as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thanks, Billy. Thanks, Alpa. So Adrian has asked the question: what does it cost, Billy? What does it cost to engage with you?
Niet, nada, nout, nothing. Completely free, because we're fully funded. It's a free service for businesses. So we're more than happy to work with businesses who, with any recruitment need. And also, when we're talking to a business, we would kind of ask some health check questions, and we can refer you to Tony and Nauza at Brandywin for any support, and also the Park Royal Business Group as well. And West London Business are also a great source of support and information and networking as well. So I really would encourage you, any business that hasn't joined those organisations, that you might want to consider it.
Yeah, thanks, Billy. That is good insight as well, because West London Business and the Park Royal Business Group do offer a lot of support for local businesses as well, and it's a collaborative community where you can meet and work and network with like-minded business people and develop your own connections too. So thanks for that.
Just one more thing, there's also the London Business Hub as well, which the GLA run too. That's another great source of support.
Yeah, and the other one that pops into my head when we're looking at this is a couple of others. Institute of Directors, I think 60% of the membership of the Institute of Directors are small businesses, and there's also the Federation of Small Businesses, who provide you with a small business starter kit, if you like, to say, you know, these are all the sort of things to consider. And British Chambers of Commerce, so we do have the Hounslow Chamber and the West London local chambers. Brandon worked quite closely with Hounslow. We had a great golf game or golf day the other week, which was well attended, and so we're able to plug you into those communities of business alliances to give you those connections you need to succeed and grow, and part of that is sharing that experience with people and just learning from others as you talk. We also had the other week we had Carl Licorice from the CITB, which is the Construction Industry Training Board, and they have courses and qualifications and apprenticeships available there. So there was a lot of information out there, and I think the key thing is to use the Forge, talk to Billy, talk to Marcellus, talk to Fabio and the team, Angela, about your recruitment needs, because you can get swamped in the information, and for some of us smaller businesses, time is money, and the more that we can have filtered out for us and sifted through, the better it is for us to get the results that we want. So do take advantage of those services offered. Nadia, at the moment doing job, I need a marketing sales, so online is not easy. Okay, so Nadia, probably good to have a conversation with you about what you're trying to achieve there and what you might want to do. So happy to talk to you afterwards and look at how Brandywin or maybe the Forge or someone can help you with that marketing and that recruitment as well. Okay.
Just to add to what Tony said, sorry, I keep jumping in.
Yeah, go on, Billy. Keep going. It's great.
If you're talking to Tony and Nauza about your business support needs, also mention if you've got any recruitment needs, Nauza and Tony will pass them on to me. Okay.
Yeah.
So we do the recruitment, Tony does the business support.
Yeah. We'll help you look at roles and responsibilities, look at what are you trying to achieve as a business? Have you got the right people in the right functions for your business? We all love marketing and we all love social media. Everybody seems to be very keen to get into the digital media space, but sometimes we do need to send out invoices and make sure we get paid. So that's just as important as the front side of things. So maybe we need somebody who can help us with the bookkeeping and the accounting and the processing of invoices and customer follow-ups and that sort of activity. So there's more to it than just the nice shiny front end of sales and media. And we talk about the business model canvas and how you can look at those 3 different parts of your business: the desirability, the feasibility, and the viability of your business, to make sure that you've got 3 legs in your tripod so that you can stand on firm foundations and grow from there. So we're sort of at 12:15. If people have more questions, then please do pop them into the chat, or come back to us, and Billy at the Forge, and myself, Tony, Nowza at Brandywin, and talk to us about how we can help you with that. So the other thing that we're looking at, with our advisory service, is to make sure that you've got the opportunity to grow and develop your business. So if you haven't already taken advantage of those one-to-one sessions, please do contact us and ask for that time. It's free to you. You get 3 hours of confidential business support from Brandywin as a delivery partner at the Park Royal. We also have more webinars coming up as well, so we will be able to deliver to you the next one on the 20th of October, which will be our logistics and supply chain and the impact of Brexit. And I think that's a very topical conversation at this point in time. We're definitely having a discussion about what does that mean in terms of supply chains. It's been in the news. We've had politicians talking about smashing up supply chains and replacing them. So Sebastian Burillo from Wisebird will talk about all of those impacts. If you want to be involved in the supply chain, or you are involved in the supply chain and want to look at ways of understanding that or exploring some of those topics, and Sebastian will be doing that. And in October, we've also got the leadership and entrepreneurship session coming up in November, and more about HR and recruitment when working with the Forge, penciled in towards the end of November as well. And just as your going away present for Christmas, we'll be talking about the circular economy and developing key partnerships, which is part of that feasibility piece of the business model canvas. Who are your partners? How do you work with them? How do you develop those relationships so that you can be part of the circular economy, part of the supply chain, and grow and thrive as a business? So that's what we have planned for the future. It's about 12:20. I don't see any more questions in the chat at the moment, so if there's any feedback, please do contact me and the team and let us know what you thought of the session, and any questions that you want to ask of the team afterwards, please do contact us. You have our details, so feel free to do that, and we will look at who's the most appropriate person in the panel to deal with that. So just for me to say, thank you very much for coming along today, and thank you to our great panelists that we had. So we had Billy Seago from the Forge, we had Elsa Caleb from Brandywin, Angela John from the Hounslow Job Centre, Fabio Novella from the Shaw Trust, and Marcello Lindos from the Brentworks and the Forge as well. So without too much further ado, it's been great to talk to you and listen to your questions and get your feedback on what's happening out there. And I left off Alpa Kapasi from BBVS JV as well, because I didn't have my list in front of me to do that. Billy.
Just want to say thank you very much for organising this, Tony, and it's a pleasure to speak to you all, and I hope to hear from as many of you as possible very soon. And thanks to my colleagues too.
Great. Thanks very much, Billy. Thanks everybody for your participation, and we look forward to seeing you again at the next session.